There's no financial.
That looks good, right?
All right, good morning. It is Wednesday, January 8th. This is a meeting of the Local Development Corporation down at Brookhaven. It is 12:03. Following board members are here. Howie, Callahan, Don, Anne Marie, Fred Braun, quorum is present. Minutes of our meeting of December 4th have been sent to everyone. Can I have a motion to approve?
So move.
The second. Are any changes or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Gloria, I'll turn it over to you.
Included in your
Fred?
package.
Excuse me for a moment, Fred.
I'm sorry, Felix. I neglected to recognize your presence. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, included in the package is the November operating results for year to date through November in a comparison to our budget and also the prior year. No activity in the LDC for this period. The only thing I want to mention is the banks have continued to decrease our interest rates, sadly, which we expected. And also that we're starting our year-end audit next week. Also, I wanted to just read you our statement that all payroll taxes and related withholdings have been paid timely in accordance with federal and state guidelines. All regulatory reports have been filed in a timely fashion. And that's my report.
Any questions for Lori? Need a motion to accept her report.
So move.
Second. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's- Yeah. Into the resolutions. Resolutions 1 through 5. The appointment of officers and staff, appointment of council, appointment of bank, adopting a prevailing wage policy, and adopting a property disposition policy, investment policy, and whistleblower. There are no changes.
Procurement and ethics.
Thank you. There are no changes there?
No.
You have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution 6 through 10, adoption of governance, finance, audit committee charters, and establishment and appointing of committees. Adoption of a mission statement and measurement report that we'll ask you to sign today. Adopting policy concerning board member loans, of which there are none. Adopting a compensation policy. And number 10, adopting an incentive and conditional compensation policy. Motion,
So moved.
any changes?
Yes. Just, I want to point out that, on our audit committee, there is, the audit committee, the treasurer and the assistant treasurer cannot be on the audit committee. And, for our mission statement and measurement report, this is an exercise where they want us to review our mission statement annually. So I'm going to just read it out loud to everybody. If there's changes that we want to make, we can make them. And we can always deal with changes later on if you want to think on it a little bit, but the Town of Brookhaven Local Development Corporation is formed and operated for the charitable and public purposes of benefiting and furthering the activities of the Town of Brookhaven. The mission is to conduct activities to relieve and reduce unemployment, promote employment and job opportunities through training, to develop capabilities, and to encourage the development of or retention of industry in the town through financing facilities for not-for-profit corporations to acquire, improve, maintain, equip, and furnish projects through the issuance of bonds. Any questions, comments?
That doesn't exclude for-profit, right?
No, it doesn't.
Okay,
I don't believe it excludes for-profit.
it's specified not for profit.
Well, because the LDC is focused
Oh,
on
I'm
not-for-profit,
sorry.
but
I'm forgetting where I am, sorry.
There's a motion on the floor which has been seconded to approve resolution 6 through 10. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on, from 11 to 15, the appointment of website design and maintenance consultant, check signing authorization, audit and accounting services, adopting a travel discretionary funds policy, and number 15, appointment of an insurance broker. Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, I have some changes.
Mhm.
Audit and accounting services for our annual audit, it's not to exceed $5,600. And for, our accounting services for Jones Little, it's not to exceed $1,700.
Those are the 25 numbers.
Those are the 25 numbers, yes.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on, starting with number 16, our meeting schedule. 17, adopting conflict of interest policy. Appointment of insurance risk manager. Number 19, harassment policy, and number 20, fee schedule adoption. Have a motion.
So move.
Second? Second.
Sorry, I was supposed to say, but wait a second, I got excited. Fee schedule adoption, we have been talking about maybe aligning the LDC fee schedule more closely with the IDA fee schedule, because they're a little bit out of sync on some things. So that's what I just wanted to propose, if you think that's advisable.
Lisa and I have discussed it, it's our recommendation that we match them up.
Was there,
As much as we can.
was there a specific reason in the past why they were not?
I think we were just out of sync.
Oh, so it wasn't like it was a deliberate
No,
reason.
We increased the IDAs without mirroring the LDC at the time.
There's a couple of things that you don't have parallel places, and a few things that I think are gonna stay a little bit different, but it just makes it a lot easier in the office if things are consistent.
Okay, it's a motion on the floor for resolution 16 through 20. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. And the last four. Number 21, public relations firm, 22, shared services agreement, 23, newspaper of record. And last but not least, number 24, the acquisition of real property. And like our fellow IDs upstate, we do not have any. Yes, thank you. Motion please.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Questions? Lisa, anything on those? No. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. We got through the resolutions.
The next three items are pretty straightforward. On your desk, you will see your board assessment. There's two, one's for the LDC, there's another one for the IDA. Anne Marie, please look at the number. Pulling you out.
No, I appreciate that.
And also fiduciary responsibilities, that's best practice that you annually sign it. So there's two, one for the IDA, one for the LDC. And just a reminder that you have to do the annual harassment training. So Amy will be harassing you about harassment training. That's coming up. If anyone does it through another, has already done it, doesn't need to do it, and can just send us your certification, let us know, and then we won't keep you on the list to be harassed for harassment training. But that's upcoming.
Anything else?
Lisa, is
Felix?
the review papers that you just discussed, the self-reviews of the IDA and LDC, is that online? Can I download those and fill them out and send it back?
I'll send them.
Josh is gonna email them to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix.
You're welcome.
Any other business for the LDC? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
So
So
move.
moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned. Do we have any time? On this? Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. Now move into the governance committee of the Industrial Development Agency of the town of Brookhaven. It is Wednesday, January 8th. It is now 12:12. The minutes of our meeting, I should say also for the record, following board members are here: Mr. Callahan, Mr. Grucci, Pally, Mr. Rose, Ms. Scheit, Mr. Braun, quorum is present. Minutes of our meeting of November 20th, have been sent to everyone. I have a motion to accept those.
So move.
Second. Questions, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a very brief legislative update. I think everybody's aware, but just in case. The governor vetoed the legislation requiring school board and union representatives on IDA boards. The memo that she released is in your package just for your review. She did, however, sign the legislation requiring that IDAs consider the extent to which a project will provide on-site daycare facilities. So Andrew gave me an update that there are some changes that are still being worked out. It's a little bit unclear, the way the legislation was written, what our next steps are, but we're hoping that those upcoming clarifications are going to clarify. And I just officially, obviously, we are going to comply with this. First step, I think probably easy for us to do is to add a question on our on our application. And so that's a easy change to make. So we'll do that in the next few weeks, and we'll see what comes out of the next session, the changes that are brought forward, and how we need to incorporate it, if it has to, where it has to go exactly. So,
Most likely to use that some.
well, there's different readings on it. That's one reading, and they're gonna clarify, so we'll see.
There are other things that we probably change in use that too. We prefer to do it all at once because
Yeah.
it's a monumental undertaking.
Yes,
Yeah, we had talked about that before, doing it all in one.
Yeah. so hopefully that'll make sense. Soon.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon. Which actually is a nice, does anybody have any questions on that? The easy segue into the next item, which is our housing study. We received 2 proposals. I had a request in for a third one. I was told that it was forthcoming, and then I was told it wasn't forthcoming. So we have 2 proposals. Did I put them in the packets? I meant to put them in the packets.
I believe we did.
Okay, good. I put them in the
Yes,
packets.
I read it.
So, thoughts, we have 2 options. One is from MRP Group, the other one's from Camoin.
They're both very good firms. Like the Dolo from MRB, we know Moyne has done a lot of work for us in the past. I think Lisa and I, at this point, would recommend that Moyne do the study.
The total Camoin, 24,000, and they estimate that it'll take them about 3 months to complete.
Now, we had conversations about doing this in conjunction with some of the other IDAs, or is this ours specific?
I think this is ours.
Ours specific, okay, okay.
I think for the record, we should have a motion to accept Moyne's proposal.
Yeah, we're gonna accept it in the general session, or maybe a motion to recommend to the full board.
Out of the code governance committee.
Yeah.
Move to recommend.
For a second. Second. All those in favor? Anything else? Okay, next, and we need a motion to adjourn the meeting of the governance committee.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Mitch.
We will now move to the IDA, down at Brookhaven Industrial Development Agency meeting, Wednesday, January 8th. It is now 12:17. Following the board members present, Callahan, Mr. Rucci, Pally, Mr. Rose, Ms. Scheit, Mr. Braun, a quorum is present. We need a motion to go into executive session,
To discuss,
matters of
personnel.
personnel. Thank you.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Let's go.
need a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Very quickly. This is, we move down here, I'll forget to do this. Minutes of our meeting of November 20th have been circulated. The motion on those.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Similarly, on minutes of our meeting of December 4th. Motion on that.
So moved.
Second. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Lori?
Included in the package is the operating results as of the end of November, year to date, versus the prior year and also versus our budget. We're pretty much on target with budget. We've had two closings in November. The rest of the expenses are pretty much on target, a little bit higher in insurance, as we are aware. Cyber insurance went up significantly. Also, our investment earnings, the insurance is still on target above budget, with the exception that they did decrease the rates. So we should start to see the effect of that in the next couple of months. I also want to read our statement about the payments. All payroll taxes and related withholdings have been paid in a timely fashion with the federal and state guidelines. All regulatory reports have been filed. As of this date and as of November, we didn't start to disperse any pilots. We did receive some pilot money in December, and we will be dispersing it in January in accordance with guidelines. Any questions on the?
Lori, will you be doing a year-end wrap-up on the activities of both the LDC and the IDA as to how much business we did that year and profits or losses for the end of the year?
Yes, we will. We're actually in the middle of our audit. So usually I'll do that wrap up in March when I have all the audit results to make sure that everything's in line.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Did you want to mention the?
Oh, yeah, on your, tables, Felix, we will send
Send it to
one.
you.
Is Amy put together, like she does every year, the, outline, the year in review, I guess, so, and also she always carries forward 2 years, so we've got 22, 23, and 24, just a little, wallet-sized reference guide for you, so thank you, Ames. And, Felix, I know this isn't really what you were asking, but we did 9 projects. It's $290 million in new investment and 1,050 jobs created. So nice work, everybody.
There we go.
Yes, nice work.
In the projects.
Yep.
I need a motion to accept Lori's report.
So move.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So I'm going to take a few things out of order since we have some guests, just to allow folks to get out of here. In no particular order, but in the order that it's here, we have a resolution for Topgolf USA. I think you're supposed to.
Oh, Tim, I'm gonna recuse, yeah,
Yes.
these are my turn.
It's all good.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all good.
Yeah, all right. Then. So.
The food's in here.
So, and Howard, chime in if you have anything you want to add to this, but prior to our original closing, which was a few years ago, the parent company of, Topgolf merged with Callaway. But we were not informed, and there's a letter that was included in your packets that outlines, this. We have a resolution on the table acknowledging the change, and this doesn't exactly fit into our fee schedule, so I am going to ask that you guys leave the fee to my discretion. Obviously, I will work with council and come up with a plan.
Extract as much as you possibly can.
That was said in jest. For the record.
Their attorney is smiling behind you.
Does anyone have any questions? If not, there's a resolution on the.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
This may well come back to you sometime in the spring if Callaway decides to divorce their recently acquired subsidiary or merger, however it was legally constructed. So what have you said?
Thank you all very much. Have yourselves a great day.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Tim. Bye, Tim.
Somebody go get Marty.
Yes.
Leave them in there. It really isn't a conflict, but we figured just, we had enough votes, why,
Did you eat all the cake?
the next.
Is there any
item on
food
the
left?
agenda,
I got a wedding
Still
tomorrow.
taking things out of order, is, an application for the Vineyards at Quorum. So this is a 74 unit, 55 and over residential, facility. 74 units across 6 buildings. There's a clubhouse, it's got 2,500 square feet, community garden, pickleball court, heated pool. The entire project is a little bit over 101,000 square feet. It's on 12.35 acres on the north side of Middle Country Road, between Birchwood Park Drive and Spring Lake Drive, just frame of reference. This is a $31.64 million project. 1.5 FTEs will be created at roughly $60,000 to $100,000 per year. 75 construction jobs. They are requesting the mortgage recording tax exemption, sales tax exemption, and a 15-year pilot. Just to remind everyone, the mortgage recording tax exemption, although they are not building a sewage treatment plant, they are building a pump station. Installing a pump station, I don't know what the correct terminology is, but yeah. And at our, I want to say November meeting, we made an adjustment to that policy to say it's not just if you're building a sewage treatment plant, but a pump station fits that. So they do qualify for the mortgage recording tax exemption that they're requesting. The one thing I will bring to your attention is that that our policy is to have 20% of the units, 10% affordable at the rate of 80% of the AMI, and 10% of workforce at the rate of 120% of AMI. As the application stands right now, only 16% of the apartments are set aside as affordable and workforce. I'm sorry, which translates into 12 apartments, 4 at 50% of the AMI, 4 at 65% of the AMI, 2 at 80%, and 2 at 120%.
We're gonna, as
Oh, I'm sorry, and I forgot.
previous discussed, I will
Yes.
recuse myself
Do you want
in
to?
this application. I'll go in there.
Go in the room.
On your food there, Mitch.
So, Dan, anything that you would like to add? And if you just,
My phone started ringing.
just as long as, if you can see yourself on the screen, then,
We just gotta move, yeah.
I can see him. You're
okay,
good.
all right,
You're good.
oh yeah, I see you now. Yeah, you're good.
See me?
Yes,
Once it starts speaking.
yeah, it'll,
Thank you. Good afternoon, all. Daniel Baker from Green Bay Traurig, yes. On behalf of the applicant, I'm also joined by Alec Ornstein, who's one of the partners of Ornstein Layton. If you can add anything, he certainly will. I have some packets, if anybody wants to take a look, some nice, yeah, sure, some nice pictures, site plans, and so forth. Just to piggyback off of what Lisa said, because she always does a good job of giving you the facts. Approvals from the town were received in December, so the zoning is fully completed at this point and is ready to proceed. I think it is important to note, and certainly if you need to hear from Alec again, this is a project that is has gained a good amount of support, not only from the town board, but from the local civics and people in the community. They want to see this property redeveloped, and this plan is, that's a real good one. I think a couple of things that are important that Lisa mentioned, and I'd like to just speak to, particularly the mortgage reporting tax exemption. We are aware of the recent changes here. But it would seem that in a situation like this one, something got lost in the sauce, in that here, originally the application was to put an STP on site. And after hearing from the community and the town and Suffolk County, it was agreed upon that it would be more desirable to connect to the sewer system and do all that is required. As a result, it's probably going to cost more money to do that than it would have been to build the STP. So not only are they doing something that's very comparable and similar to, I think, what you're looking for here with the STP, but it's maybe environmentally more or better received, certainly by Suffolk County. So we are requesting that the mortgage reporting tax exemption be granted because it's really a comparable type situation to doing the same thing. The second issue that I'd like to touch on is the affordable and workforce numbers. So under this proposal, what the IDA would require would be 20%, and that would be 16 of the units to be that way. As part of the application to the town to get the zoning approval and the connection to Suffolk County, the project is required to have 10 units. I'm sorry, 10%. 4 of which would be at 50% AMI and 4 that would be at 65% AMI for the town. So that's 4 workforce, 4 affordable. In addition, to connect to the Suffolk County sewer, they have to add another 4. Those are going to be 2 at 80% and 2 at 120. So those 4 that are going to the county are more comparable to what the IDA requirements are today in terms of AMI. The other ones are much lower. So when putting this all together, our request is that the board grant us the application with only 12 apartments rather than 16, understanding that some of them are more affordable and better situated for the workforce and affordable component.
Explain the issue about the county. You said 4 go to the county.
Yeah, as part of the connection to sewer, they are requiring 4 units, so that brings the 10% to just about 16%. Not quite 20, but it's 16% total.
And that's a requirement because of the connection. Correct. As you know, our policy is 10 plus 10. The question is, I understand the additional cost of connecting along. Certainly not an engineer. Surprised it's equal to or greater than, of course, the building a plan, but why should we consider something other than what's the argument from action and policy?
Well, as we read, it seems interesting to me when we're talking about senior housing. Our reading of it isn't quite the same, so we weren't expecting at the time of application that we were going to need 20%. As we dug further in and had more conversation, it seems to be that is the standard by which the board grants these approvals, and we appreciate and understand that. So as we looked at that and looked at the numbers here, and as the sewer connection component started coming in, and it wasn't 10%, it was now increasing to 16%. I think the applicant's sense is that this is a good compromise, for lack of a better word, to make everyone comfortable to give things in different directions, and at the same time, still keep this an affordable project. In addition to the, and Alec, yes, you can certainly, go ahead. In addition to the usual increases.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can, if,
Move in
Yeah,
here.
just- yeah, you're good. That's perfect.
The difference between, thank you for letting me speak, at the 50% AMI, which is the affordable as required by the planning board, the difference between the 50% AMI and the 80% AMI, which would be permitted currently under the IDA and from the county, is about $1,100 per month lower rent. So I think one of the arguments that we'd like to propose is that if we were able to do it all at 80 and 120, then economically we'd be pretty much in the same position. But because the planning board, Brookhaven, is requiring the 50 and the 65%, it's a huge reduction in the amount of rent that we can collect from those units. So economically, it puts us in basically the same position. If the whole project were at 20%, but at 80 and 120, that makes sense. In addition, if I can add about the treatment plant, I'm going to speak to that. The cost of the pump station, which the civics did not want us to build a treatment plant there. And then we went to the county was more than happy with the capacity that they have in their treatment plant to have us connect. The cost of the pump station, jacking under Middle Country Road, connecting Force Main to there, then going downstream to the Old Town Road County pump station, upgrades there, and the connection fees the county requires because we're out of district to the treatment plant. Those costs, shake your head, yeah. So those costs are potentially, we won't know until it's fully engineered what the upgrades are required in the Old Town Road County pump station. but the costs are clearly gonna be more than if we build our own treatment plant on site. Much easier to control those costs as well.
What's that, I'm picturing Old Town Road, picturing where your project is. What's that distance offhand, do you know?
It's a couple miles. We have a plan, but we're not going all the way to Old Town Road. We're crossing over, and then just on the north side of the country road, we expect to be able to connect to a manhole that's in the district that will then carry our sanitary to the pump station. But the capacity of the pump station is what needs to be studied still today. We don't have that fully vetted yet, although we do have conceptual approval from the sewer agency to make the connection. We don't have it fully engineered yet. We're waiting for that final round of comments.
You say earlier, or you had the numbers in your head, I do not, that the top 4 units, if you do the math, they're very close to market rate.
At
Right, so
120%
The
of AMI.
remainder would be under the IDA's requirements to get from the 16 to 20%. I think it's 3 units that would have to be restricted to affordability at 120% of the AMI. That is generally perceived as relatively close to market. So the additional 3 units would be at 120% AMI? That is correct, because you're already satisfying the 10% and 80. So the remaining 10%, then under the IDA's requirements, would have to be at or below 120. You have basically 6% of those, so the remaining 4%. I think would represent 3 units, which would have to be restricted at 120. Not somehow splitting them between 80. Correct. Because you're already satisfied. Right.
If you wanted to, we would accept.
Lower. I'd rather the consideration of the 15% because of the 50 and 65% AMI. But again, having a pilot is critically important to the ability to build the project. So we would prefer to get you.
The 3 at the 120 is what I think the board is looking for.
Like I said. So 3 more, so it's 15 total.
Correct.
Yeah, 15 total, to 74 unit facility, so.
Yep.
Yeah, and if it was 5 at 120, 2 at 80, 4 at 65, and 4 at 50.
Okay, that's where you're satisfied. Yeah. We'll do it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we need anything today? We can't until you have public hearing.
Well, you have to accept the application, or you don't have to accept it, you have to consider it.
I'll move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Further questions of Dan? Well, no, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't need them if you want them. Appreciate it. Okay, yeah. Sometimes attorneys, use that. Oh, yeah.
Anne Marie, would you?
Yeah, you see the garage, the garage?
No, sorry.
Would you use that would be great.
Sure.
Yeah, that would actually be perfect, and we'll give you.
And we exceed, Fred, we exceed the parking requirements, that's the town requirement.
Okay.
By almost 30%. Because the senior, it's maybe more than it's.
You have to go through and privately owned property. But to get this, and then the manhole?
No, it's either, so we're going under the state road,
Right.
not touching.
Oh.
I go to lunch. And then the roads on the other side are town. Okay, so yeah, no, so we're fine.
There's a project in Mount Sinai. It's gotta be over a mile to get where it needs to go.
We're about 3/4 of a mile to that manhole cover. We have to jack under the road to get to that manhole and then study the size of the pump station of the county.
Curious, what's the size of that pipe? I have no idea.
We can ask Tina.
Yes, we can.
It's probably, it's on the plan somewhere. If you need to know, I can let you know.
That wasn't a test flight.
I'm not an engineer.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is KCE NY 31 LLC. This is a BESS project, a battery energy storage project. It's, they're proposing to lease 2.3 acres from LIPA at the Shore Power Plant property to construct a 50 megawatt battery energy storage system project, a BESS system. It's approximately an $85 million project. There will be about 20 construction jobs. Take care.
Next page.
They specify in the application that the labor will be locally sourced. I want to point this out to you guys, but the specialized equipment is not available here on Long Island, which is reasonable. So, the labor will be locally sourced, but the materials, the specialized equipment will not be, local. They are requesting, a sales and use tax exemption, a 20-year pilot, and mortgage reporting tax, but at this point, it's not, eligible with our new policy. I should have said that earlier. So, Don, do you want to? Does anyone have any questions? John, you want to say a few words about the project?
Sure. So, thank you all for, having us here today to, make a brief presentation to you. Lisa, did a good job explaining the basic details of the project. With me today is Key Capture Energy's Phil Denara. He's the project manager. As Lisa mentioned, this project is at the Shore Nuclear Power Plant, northeast corner of the property of the town. It's owned by LIPA, L4 zoning. The IDA has a pilot on another portion of the property there where Shore Energy LLC has their power plant. Key Capture was selected pursuant to an LIPA RFP for this project to develop 50 megawatt BESS. It was approved at the end of last year for the power purchase agreement and site the project there. And they will be entering into a lease with LIPA in order to site the facility there for 20 years with a 5-year option. Project has been completed in 2028. Secret review has been completed and the IDA was involved agency as part of it. The existing area where they're proposing to build this was previously cleared in connection with construction of the power plant back in the 70s. The BESS would interconnect with a substation that's currently on the property already. As brief background, Key Capture operates the first 20 megawatt BESS in New York State, which is in Stillwater outside of Saratoga County. They also operate 2 additional BESSes in New York State, as well as 11 in Texas, which range from 10 megawatts to 100 megawatts. There's been a number of local outreach here. We've met with the town supervisor, Councilman Bonner, the fire marshal, the Wading River Fire Department, and had significant contact with the Shore Civic Association, including meetings with them, all in advance of approving this project. As noted by Lisa, we are seeking sales and use tax and pilot benefits. New York obviously is a high cost market, and BESS throughout New York State have all received pilots in order to develop. The economics just do not work. As Lisa noted, it's an $85 million project. Approximately $68 million of that is specialized equipment. That's what she was referencing, and that is something that has to be sourced off of Long Island. But all labor will be done on Long Island through local labor. Phil has met with many unions on Long Island. KC uses union labor throughout New York State on their projects. Most recently, which noted in the application, they developed a 20 megawatt project in Buffalo using labor from International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, United Steelworkers, and Civil Service Employees Association. In terms of timing, as given that the necessary LIPA approval has been received, if the application is received, is accepted by the board today, the applicant would like to close in the first quarter of this year, subject to the agency's review, timing, and other agency counsel preparing the documents, but that pretty much sums it up.
Curious, where's the equipment being manufactured?
So there's various components to the project. There's
There's the battery storage system itself. So those are special built containerized solutions. We're proposing to procure from Tesla. So the system itself will be finalized and manufactured in the United States, but certain components of the system, especially the battery cells themselves, will likely come from China. Other than that, there's other balance of plant equipment, notably the steel and bus infrastructure and project substation. All that steel will be procured from the US.
There's also a main power transformer to ramp down the voltage from the grid itself. That'll be procured by Siemens, from their factory in Colombia. And we're also procuring breakers from Siemens, high voltage breakers, which will be procured from Italy.
Curious as the reaction of the civics.
The discussion with the Civic Association has been overall positive, I would say. We've been in really close contact with Citadel and members of the public. I've met in person with them a number of times. I think they generally understand that if there's battery storage is necessary for our transition to renewables across the state and to decarbonize our grid. And this is a very suitable location for that, given all the existing infrastructure on site. So I would say they certainly have their questions, but I think we've done a good job of having a very good, positive relationship.
I'm sure it's an educational effort. That's much
For
better
sure,
than
for sure. But overall, I think we've got, the support of the civics by this point, and Chief Donnelly and the Wading River Fire Department are really excited about the project as well.
How are the property at the moment is owned by LIPA,
Yes,
so it is tax exempt?
it is fully tax exempt.
So therefore, how will a pilot be enunciated since there is no tax at the moment?
So this actually is an existing, on that property, there's an existing pilot for 9.9 acres, I believe, for Shoreham Energy LLC, and they have the exact situation that KC would be. They're a lessee of LIPA, but KC, well, LIPA itself is tax exempt, and
Right.
the land is tax exempt. Key Capture is now a private operator on the state facility. So because now they're in a lease, the town has the ability to impose taxes on it because LIPA has lost site control, essentially. They're doing that, there is a concept that.
So let me ask the next question then, assuming, so then therefore, since there is no comparable on Long Island, I assume from what you're saying, since this is the first Long Island project, how will the tax assessor determine what that's gonna be?
We're, sorry, and we're
Or
not,
we're gonna
not
do-
that concerned with, what the final assessment is. We have a policy, we've had a longstanding policy that we, came up with, it's been a long time. How our pilots are set for battery energy storage projects, so it's not based on full assessment, it's not a ramp up towards full assessment, it's based on megawatts. We did a lot of research and we spoke with NYSERDA, we say ad nauseum, in it the truest sense of the word. And we came up with this policy and it so far has been tried a few times and seems to still be working properly.
Okay,
And it is pretty typical for IDAs throughout the state to treat battery storage pilots similarly on a per megawatt.
by the megawatts,
Correct.
Yes.
I was gonna say produced, but it's not technically produced.
It's
Yeah,
capacity.
It's the
Yeah.
capacity of the storage, I guess is a better word,
Yeah.
in that context. Okay,
Yeah, we've negotiated pilots throughout the state. They range in dollars per megawatt, but by far the pilots that we're negotiating here are pretty good versus the rest of the state
Okay.
for obvious reasons.
thank you. That would be, I would assume that would be different to some degree if the property was not tax exempt.
No, it would be, as the other pilots have been done, that I've seen this board consider, they are per megawatt. Whether or
Yeah.
not.
Regardless.
Yes,
Yes,
Okay,
that's been our policy that it,
well, I mean, in other places in the state.
yes,
that has
it's
been-
all the other.
the
properties we're
normal-
talking
the
about, they're
normal
not
course?
tax exempt properties in general.
Okay, thank you.
What's the generating source or sources of the energy stored?
We're gonna charge directly off the grid and then back onto the grid. So, ultimately the goal is as we decarbonize and we have more wind and solar, the wind is not always blowing and the sun is not always shining. So, but.
I understand the need for it.
But
Wondered about the
the
source.
electrons are gonna be agnostic to what source it comes from. So today our grid is predominantly fossil. So at the end of the day, yes, there will be some degree of probably fossil charge in the system, but you can think of it as the fact that we'll ultimately be displacing higher carbon intensive uses at the same time, because instead of people coming home from work from 5 to 7, turning on their equipment and needing to ramp up a gas plant, you can just dispatch battery storage system that can respond in milliseconds onto the grid. And then on top of that, battery storage is actually providing additional services other than just charging and discharging off of the grid. There's what's called ancillary services on the electric grid. So that includes maintaining frequency, providing voltage uplift, other services that would generally be supported by a capacitor or other investments into the grid. So ultimately, you're deferring upgrades to the transmission system, you're deferring the need to rely on peakers, which is benefiting ratepayers.
Right. One of the articles, might have been Newsday, kind of indicated that where they're best with getting its power from was strictly from solar or wind, which is not the case.
I think the one,
Although I assume they will be very happy to take the solar power from the new facility at Lawrence Aviation, which will be the biggest, outside the landfill, the biggest in the town.
Yep.
and there's two,
Yeah.
just a stone's throw from where you're
Yeah,
proposing that we supported on,
That works out.
25A and, Cooper Street. We have two, so
Right.
Yeah,
the proximity might not really matter because energy is.
yeah, I
energy,
mean,
but-
ultimately, the economics of battery storage is such that we're gonna charge when the resources are cheapest and not needed, and discharge when they're predominantly the highest. And so we have a flat contract with LIPA, and they have full dispatch rights, so they will ultimately decide when to charge and discharge. But you can absolutely expect that the renewables on the grid are gonna be the cheapest generating resources, and so when they're not utilized, you're gonna charge from those, and you're gonna dispatch the resource to displace
Okay.
otherwise fossil.
Did we say this is the first battery storage in the town of Brookhaven?
No,
Oh, it's not, okay, because we were doing one once before at,
Well, there's one under construction on 83.
yeah, that we
Yeah.
supported.
and there was one, the castle,
We
what do
have
you
a
call it?
few,
that did-
that's the one,
That's the
and then
one,
we have a few other applications
okay.
in front of this.
Any of them up and running yet, or?
So there's two 5 MW facilities, one in East Hampton and one in Montauk. Those have
Okay.
been online since 2018. The facility that's under construction, that was just mentioned, that's a 5 MW facility, I believe, so a lower voltage connection. But obviously still providing tremendous value to the system. These will be the largest facilities on Long Island when they're built. Yeah, this is concurrent with another facility that was just approved with LIPA in Iceland as well.
Okay.
John?
How many full-time jobs does a facility like this, put out?
It's a completely unmanned system. So once it's up and running, there'll be regular routine maintenance that will require some degree of labor, but generally limited in nature. There will be approximately 20 full-time construction jobs during the roughly 18-month construction period. It's gonna be more like 50 jobs, but some will be part-time and such, so on a full-time basis, it equates to roughly 20.
So we don't consider the job thing
So,
as an important thing that
Protecting the
for
planet.
yeah, so we have, we have a
Yeah, sure.
uniform tax, we have a policy, I can't think what it's called right now, that gives us different things that we consider for each project. Investment in the community and job creation are kind of the easy ones that we turn to most often, but a project like this, we're going to look at, the environmental impacts and the energy impact that this type of project, so like when we do housing, for instance, they're typically not big job creators, but we look at an investment in the community, obviously on this one too, but we look at investment in the community and we look at the need for housing in the community. So although those are kind of, I don't, low hanging fruit, easy ones for us to look to point to, there are other things that our policy allows us to consider. And job creation, although construction jobs are certainly important, I don't want to minimize them. They are a snapshot in time. That's not what we would look at when we consider a project like this.
Did you say 2028 online?
So we've already started to purchase certain equipment, but due to how long certain equipment takes to be manufactured and delivered on site, we'll likely break ground early next year. And then it'll be a roughly 12 to 18 construction timeline. So by the time we backfeed the system from the grid and it's fully online, it'll be roughly Q4 2027 to Q1 2028.
But if you're charging off the grid, what's the benefit? Environmentally,
So
They don't have to power the plants, he was saying. but,
if it's a day like, not today, but like yesterday where it was like cloudy and overcast and kind of crummy, then and if we're moving away from, fossil fuels and we're gonna have more and more, solar panels, solar renewable energy, then on a day where it's not windy and it's not, the sun isn't shining, we're gonna have a problem if there aren't battery storage that we can pull from. It's the environmental side of it is also that right now, if we, let's say we didn't do battery storage and we had a day that was cloudy and not windy, then in order for us to have the lights on, a peaker plant would have to kick on, and they are kind of older technology. I don't want to pick on the peaker plants, but they tend to be a little bit rough
Plus
for the
natural gas
environment.
or fire.
Yeah, yes, they're so instead of kicking on one of those every time that it's not, the sun isn't shining and it's not windy, we can turn to a battery where nothing has to be kicked on, it just spits it right back into the system.
And the peakers tend to be the most expensive.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
From a cost
I mean, they're
analysis,
relatively
operational.
inefficient. You can't just at the snap of a finger dispatch energy from a peaker, right? You actually have to burn fuel to warm up those turbines. So you're actually wasting resources to be available during peak times
Right.
versus a battery storage facility can respond. to
And
those.
these things are gonna be even more important as LIPA tries to convince everybody to do your dishwashing after 10 o'clock at night.
yes,
Exactly.
For a third of the rate,
yeah.
you do it after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it's as LIPA leverages their time of day.
Day, your
rates as they-
things are gonna be even more important.
as they leverage their trading obligations, they they have connections to ISO New England. There's a connection coming directly from New England across this crossout cable, from PGM as well. They can leverage all those in a manner that allow the battery storage system to charge during really cheap periods, generally overnight, and then discharge back.
Kind of in the short term, you're replacing peakers, but in the long term, that we all hope will come sooner than, well, you are providing storage for solar, for wind, and whatever.
Serving as a bridge so that we can get
Yep.
as close to
Yep.
as possible to 100% renewables, right?
Okay, no other questions?
I have a question if I may.
Alex has a question.
Once your battery is charged to the maximum capacity, and there is no more wind generating or solar power coming in, and we're relying upon that battery to service electricity to the community, how long will that battery reserve last before you run out of juice?
Yeah, so the system is designed to actually cycle daily. So it's capable of doing a full charge and discharge of 50 megawatts over 4 hours. So 200 megawatt hours, which is like, tens of thousands of homes every day. So realistically, if LIPA is using this efficiently, they'll essentially be charging the battery overnight or during lulls of load and high periods of generation, and then charging it back on a regular basis during peak load. So it's going to be done regularly, but if they did decide that they want to just let that energy sit in the battery, there's a small degradation and loss associated with that energy, but it's relatively immaterial to the tune of, roughly 1 to 2% on a long-term basis. So it's really, you're not really losing a lot of energy by letting it sit there, but generally speaking, because of how this is contracted with LIPA, they will realistically be using it on a more regular basis and cycling it on a more regular basis.
Let me ask it a different way, because I'm not sure I asked the question correctly. If there is no more energy coming in, no more electricity coming into the battery is fully charged, and we have to rely upon that battery, and it has to service however many houses it can service, does it do that for 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours before there's no more juice left in the battery?
Yeah, I understand the question. Yeah, the project is capable of discharging or charging 50 megawatts over a 4-hour period. So it can hold 200 megawatt hours of energy, and it can discharge that at a rate of 50 megawatts per hour, basically.
And what does that translate into the average house?
It's the full 200 megawatt hours is tens of thousands of houses. Yeah, I don't have the exact number. Right now. Yeah, for 4
So
hours.
what's the time frame? That also means the switch is fully open. Doesn't have to be open all the way.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be fully open. Yeah.
So I think Felix's question was like a doomsday scenario.
Right, they say there's another Sandy and we
Right.
lose all our power.
Right.
How long will this thing help the 10,000 houses it's working on.
So, yeah,
Go ahead.
if we lose all of our power, the transmission system is down, like this, there's already an issue on the grid, right? This is more of a resource regeneration, but it has a 4-hour charge capability, so it can charge, it takes about 4 hours to charge. It can discharge for up to 4 hours of time.
If everybody has all their lights on and doing, everybody's running the dishwasher, the reality is in a situation like that, we're gonna be conserving, we're gonna be nervous. So I don't think this is set up to be gonna save us in Sandy. It's one piece of that, and this is one best, not, there's other ones that would augment as well.
Yeah, I think people generally consider battery storage to be this resources that's just sitting there in a doomsday scenario and capable of discharging onto the grid, but that's not necessarily the case. It's actually cycling on a regular basis to make the most sense for ratepayers.
So you need to come in and apply for more best sites.
Yeah, we've got a number of sites under development across Long Island, and this is one of the 3 projects which are contracted with LIPA.
Nice.
Is there a motion? on the
So move.
Is there a second? We go around the room just to be sure. On the vote, Mr. Callahan,
Yes.
Mr. Grucci,
Yes,
Valley,
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
No,
the Scheit,
Yes.
one votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna continue to jump around since we still have some more guests. The next item on the agenda, is, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ferrandino and Sons Development Group LLC. In November, we received a request that we consider a 20-year pilot. I also want to point out that although we haven't had our public hearing yet, we did receive a letter of support from Patchogue Mayor Pontieri. So in November, we received a request that we consider a 20-year pilot. 15 is our standard, 20 would be the deviation from our standard. I keep it to you guys for discussion. Howard, did you have anything that you want to tee up to the group?
Under our UTEP, if a project of this nature is located in a downtown or in a blighted area or something of that nature, our UTEP provides for an enhanced pilot for the 15 years rather than the ordinary 7 years. So that's why we're looking at it as a 15-year.
Right, because otherwise it would be capped at, I think, 7 to 10. So that's why we're able to increase it to 15. Does anyone have any questions?
20 would far exceed.
I'd like to just add, I'm sorry, did I just cut somebody off?
Emery
No,
just
go ahead,
said
Felix.
that 20 exceeds our standard.
I just want to point out that this project is supported by the village, and the area that it's going in is I don't want to say blighted, but it is certainly a downtrodden section of the village of Patchogue, and the cleanup of this area with a more aesthetically pleasing project would anchor the western end of the village of Patchogue, and I think solidify going forward that the village of Patchogue is not only viable, but will remain viable. For those of us who've been around a while, we remember the days that Patchogue had nothing but vacant stores in it as a result of a transition from being a retail giant to now a destination spot. So having a project like this, I think, is a good thing. And I understand we don't want to be setting precedents, but I think each case should be looked at as it on its own merits. And I believe that this application would warrant what they're seeking. Now, I understand that we had a a draft report done that guided us in different directions, and I would request that we do a 15 and a 20-year study that would be paid for by the applicant to determine the difference between the success of a 15-year project and the success of a 20-year project, again, for the betterment of the village of Patchogue.
So we have representatives here, if anybody has any questions for them.
I would agree with Felix.
Do they have anything they want to add?
Yes, we do.
Go ahead.
Eric Russo, Van Brett Jesuit Russo, 140 Main Street, Sable, New York, on behalf of the applicant Ferrandino and Son Development Group. And as this board is aware, we have been made application to you in 2023 and came back. I don't know if you can see me there.
Yeah, you're fine.
And 2023, and we came back for an extension in 2024. And then we made it clear, we've always been requesting 20 years. I was aware while we were having the conversations with the IDA and also coming before you, that 20 years was something extraordinary, given what your policy was and what your practice had been. However, as I pointed out in our last sessions, in terms of the UTAP and all of the benefits that are derived from this project as they related to the community office for the Patchogue Chamber of Commerce, the workforce and affordable housing, which total 53 units, 26 and 27 units specifically. The school, that there was no impact in terms of students that would be going into the school or would burden the school district. The downtown benefit, because as Mr. Grucci just pointed out, this particular area on West Main Street is the area in which the village of Patchogue has been trying to revitalize and improve. And we are cleaning up on the south side of West Main Street, all the industrial uses that are there that have gone defunct, that have polluted the Patchogue River. We've been able to secure from the New York State DEC a wetlands permit that allows us to put in the proposed area of park and refurbishment that they would like us to see done on the Patchogue River, which runs from the north through and down and out to the Great South Bay. In addition to that, we've managed to secure from the Suffolk County Parks Board of Trustees a parkland license for 20 years, 10 years with 2 5-year options, because they'd like us to maintain this. This has been an area for the village of Patchogue, as the mayor has pointed out. They were trying to acquire, the county wouldn't sell to them. And there have been incidents of vandalism. There has been incidents of items thrown into this particular area. There have been incidents of crime where people, there were some sexual hurt issues that were there. And the village is very much interested in this project, cleaning it up. And it's going to serve as the entrance to the walkway for the village, because the village has been trying to maintain a walkway going from Main Street down along the waterfront there on the Patchogue River. In addition, we have gotten from the Suffolk County Legislature a grant of close to $1 million to help us with the improvement of this for the construction and the housing. The jobs, I put into the report for you exactly what we are able to provide, both full-time and part-time, as a result of this. And the zoning, there is no master development like you have, for example, in Tri-Tech, where you had that project where the town created a master development and zoning and a specific zoning for that project. And then it enabled you to grant applications of 25 years respectively on their thing, in terms of their pilot that they were requesting, whether it had mortgage tax or it didn't have mortgage tax. In this particular case, the village doesn't have a master development, but the village has granted, we're now approaching the anniversary of the zoning that allows this project to go forward and create the multifamily that we are seeking to do here, because some of the property was not properly zoned. And the village has supported it. The zoning board of appeals supported it as it related to parking. The planning board in the village also supported it. So what we have is a very significant project development that will turn around completely the west end of Main Street. If you're not familiar, this is directly across from the YMCA, the cemetery, and the brewery. And it fronts on and looks at the Patchogue Lake. Yes.
Will you just because I think this is probably what the board, needs more than the history, which I think everybody appreciates, but we are, somewhat aware of. Talk a little bit about the need for 15 versus 20. I think that might.
Certainly. Certainly, and
20 versus.
we provided two reports for you to consider, an economic and a feasibility study. I know that the Camoin was looking at the feasibility study and there was really no request about the economics, but we gave it back and they're dated in October and November of last year. There is a financial situation, a financial concern, and a lending situation that has to be addressed. So for that, I'm going to let Mr. Rossi explain and review the details. And our biggest concern here is our project with all of our approvals, and I talked with the Village of Patchogue earlier today. Our approvals are sitting there and they're poised and they're ready to move forward and they're ready to issue demolition permits, one after another on the 9 respective properties to clear down everything. But the biggest concern is that we then need to start the construction, and the financing is what's specifically for this project. And that's why, and I'll let Mr. Rossi explain the need for the 20 years. And I recognize it's extraordinary, but this is something that would be advantageous to the projects extremely in terms of getting the financing. And it would be revolutionary in your review because, as Mr. Grucci points out, you need to take these project by project. And I recognize that this would be something new and you're going somewhere where you've never gone before in the terms of Star Trek. But that being said, my answer to you, and this project is in need of that assistance and understanding and support from your board. So I'd let Mr. Rossi go forward from there.
I won't take a lot of time, but from a financial standpoint, we're still in a very high inflationary period and we're in flood zone. So our cost of construction here is probably a third higher than it was 3-4 years ago before COVID. We're in the highest interest rate period we've ever seen. Our interest carry is enormous. The construction that we're doing on building is quite architecturally pleasing. We don't build ugly buildings. You know, we take pride in what we do. We think that that the building that we put up here is going to be something that this board, the town, regionally, everybody's going to be very, very proud of. Outside of that, you're in your UTAP, but you only have to qualify for 2 points within your UTAP to go to a 15. You have 7 points in there. We qualify for all 7 of those points. From a timing perspective, as Eric said, that we're under contract with the properties. We don't own them, and those contracts have run out. They've been amended, and if we don't make a decision in relatively short order, they're going to run out again, and those sellers have the chance to retrade us again, which cost us more money with land price than we don't. Which is a big problem. We want to break ground Q1 of 2025, effectively April, as soon as the weather breaks, and catch the entire season of construction and continue on there. And it's extremely important that we get a 20-year pilot because financially, the project is not financeable or advertisable without what we're asking for. It's just a fact of the matter. Unless interest rates come down 2 basis points, and our cost of construction comes down another 10%, the project doesn't fly. The community givebacks the community benefits that the project supplies should be the poster child for multifamily housing. We have a 20% affordable housing component. We're providing a public park, giving the Chamber of Commerce office space for free. We're transit-oriented development. We're in the downtown. We're at the beginning of the downtown. We are upgrading the sewer line coming out of the sewer treatment plant down around Main Street, so that more connectivity can happen westerly down the village.
Which, by the way, as far as the sewer is concerned, is something that the governor was very supportive of and also was concerned in making sure that more housing was coming in there and granted monies for the solar development, which has gone on at the railroad, and also with concerns to help advance the sewer. So we are and do have a substantial investment that we're providing the village with for the sewer, both in the design that we've already committed to in funds, and but for your considerations here with this board, that's what's been driving this project. As we've applied for you, asked for that, and move forward with our zoning applications and county permit approvals.
NYU Langone, is pushing, for us to get this done relatively short order because they need housing stock because they want to continue their expansion within the village. I think they're kind of holding that back, until they see some more, personal housing that can house their staff. You know, that's really the gist of it, but the biggest issue that we face here and now that I'm most concerned about is if this gets kicked another month, it costs us millions of dollars in the sense that we can lose the sellers of the properties. Particularly, the eastern parcel, 108 unit building. The building is divided, the property is divided into two separate buildings. 108 units, easterly of the river, 154 west of the river. And, they now have a property that's fully entitled, ready to go, to look at the chops to recreate us. And if don't get IDA approval soon now, we're in some trouble and open us up to a retrade with those sellers.
And the market for the lending institutions is taking place, as you would be aware, in this first quarter of the year.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to meet the deadlines in terms of the financing.
Say that again? So we're very conservative in our approach as it relates to equity, right? And we go out to, we're a 60-40 LTC scenario, right? So 40% of that equity is raised between us, the developer on the GP side, and a large institutional investor. I'm just going to give you an example. JP Morgan Asset Management, Apollo, one of the large insurers, right? And the last 2 years, everybody's kind of been holding back. We haven't seen a lot of institutional investment anywhere. In 2025, the beginning, particularly in January, towards the end of this month, they're going to allocate their money that they want to put into particular projects now. And we want to be able to catch that curve now so that we can start construction in April, don't pull out a contract and have it viable. So if I understood you correctly, 40 of the 40% from the developer, the other 60% of the 40 is from the institutional investor. Yeah, so it's a 60-40 LTC. So 60% comes from a senior lender, so, you know, large banks, say Bank of the Ozarks, or one of those large senior lenders. Then you have an enormous equity slug, to the tune of, you know, $70 million. That equity slug is split up between us, GP, and an LP investor. The LP investor would be, yes, sir. LP investor would be somebody to the tune of large institutions.
The village is also.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I thought you
The village
finished.
is also prepared because we've had construction meetings with the village as of the October, November, and they're prepared to start issuing demolition permits and prepared, if we're able to move forward with the financing and everything we have to do, the demolition permits for the buildings one short time for the 9 respective lots. The zoning approvals are valid for the 3-year period, and we moved forward with all of that because I double checked where, if there was any expiry, but we haven't been able to finalize covenants and restrictions with the village, the health department, et cetera, because we don't have the property entitled to Ferdinand development at this particular point. They're in individual 9 property owners' names. So there's also the historic renovation that is going to take place for the carriage house that's on the site and be relocated and incorporated into the project. So there are many elements here that have been able to advance, but for your approval and your financial situation that would allow us to move forward with the project. And there's a timeline, and I recognize your timelines, and we've tried to comply and keep moving it forward. And we're at a critical juncture at this.
Howard, did you have something?
You know, I think it would be useful if this board was able to compare the effects of having a 15-year pilot versus a 20-year pilot. And therefore it'd be useful to have their financial consultants, Camoin, prepare 2 studies or do a study that compares the 2 scenarios. Considering the fact that the earliest this board can act is at the next board meeting, because they must hold a public hearing after they have decided on what the pilot will be, and then they can pass the resolutions. So, either way, you can't have anything happen before at least a month. As I said, I think it would be very useful for this board to be able to see for themselves from their experts as to why a 20-year pilot is so important for the project, and how it compares to a 15-year.
Third-party study done by Grow America, three of them, of which everybody has, Grow America they're a third-party non-for-profit group that I'm sure a lot of these folks have worked with, in other jurisdictions, and has been under review for a substantial amount of time. That proves up really financially why we're asking for the 20-year.
And if you.
With all due
recall-
respect, I disagree with that, Mr. Rossi. My recollection of that feasibility study was geared towards a 20-year. It didn't compare the two scenarios. That's why I'm suggesting that the agency have its own consultants that it relies upon, make the analysis for them and present it to them.
And with all respect, Mr. Gross, I understand that, and you and I have discussed that point. And in response to that, when we discussed and you requested of us that we comply and provide a feasibility study that addressed the UTAP, we did. And simultaneously, whether you requested it or you didn't request it, we also provided from Grow America the economic feasibility.
You volunteered one.
And when I gave that, and I separated the two out, because initially they were all combined into one, and I was advised that the board or the IDA would like them separated. So I separated it out and directed.
Yes.
Grow America do it so that there would be a feasibility study responsive to what the needs were for the IDA. That being said, I also made certain that the economic study was also provided. These all reports were revised and done in early November and October. And that being said, when I submitted them, I asked and spoke with Ms. Mulligan and requested that they also be considered as part of that, recognizing that Camoin was directed by this board to direct and look at 15 years. And my response to that was, I appreciate that, and I would request that you also consider 20. So we're giving you both reports so that they had the flexibility.
Yes, but it's not from our consultant. We would like our consultant. I
I
suggest
understand.
like our consultant do the review for us, not your
And-
consultant.
And I understand that. And I was of the impression that by giving the two documents in request with my letter and the extension, both from November and moving forward, that would be considered and moved forward. And I checked and tried to
Well,
follow up.
we have a misunderstanding about that.
Well,
So,
I'm
so my
gathering,
suggestion to the board is, my recommendation to the board is that they ask Camoin to prepare a study that compares the two scenarios.
And I think
I
that's what
apologize.
Mr.
I
Grucci
apologize.
recommended
They
earlier in this
said the same.
meeting.
I apologize if I was misinformed or I misunderstood what was being discussed, but I thought and was of the impression that both were being evaluated simultaneously. I did not realize that you needed to have further direction and approval from this board to go forward with the 20-year review. I understand.
Lisa, can Camoin, is that how it's pronounced?
Yes,
Can they have the study completed before our next meeting?
I can ask them. I think that's reasonable. I don't want to speak on their behalf, but I think they have the information that they need to.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. From your perspective, does Camoin have all the information they need to do such an analysis?
Has anything updated that needs?
Everything that we've provided is current and updated.
We revised our IDA application, and the IDA application was November 12th of 2024, which was provided. And in addition, we gave the feasibility and economic studies, then they're dated up the end of October and early November
And
of 2024.
The spreadsheet your Camoin had you fill out, that's all up to date,
That's totally accurate. Yeah.
Correct, those were provided as you requested.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's important, we're being asked, and it's not an unreasonable request, but we're being asked to do something different than we've done in the past, okay? We can't make that kind of decision arbitrarily. We need to have a reasonable series of evidence, and I'm not using that word in a legal discussion, to determine, okay, in this situation, because of these criteria, it is a good thing to do, or it is not a good thing to do. I think that's what this board needs, and I think from Felix's request and working through that, I think that will then allow this board, at least me, I won't speak to anybody else, to make an informed decision as to whether we stay with our policy or we provide an exemption to the policy for this project. That's what I'd like to see, and I think the other board members feel the same way, and I think that's how we should move forward. And I agree with, if Felix makes that as a motion, I'd be more than happy to second.
And there's never been a question as to the value of this project to the village, Patcho. Never been a question.
Right.
Or to the region for that matter.
Yeah,
Right, right. This is not a question of whether the project is good or bad.
No.
This is a question of how good, not how bad, how good it can be in this context with meeting these criteria. I think that's a fair
Problem,
statement.
I totally understand, and I agree. I'm out of time. I'm out of time, please, I was.
I would like to put the request for, the economic study in,
Felix,
yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not, I don't know if you heard that Joe was just saying something, so I,
No, I'm sorry, I wasn't. I didn't hear it.
Bruce, we just, I'm just saying that from a contractual standpoint, as it relates to the land, we're out of time. And this could, by going out another month, could effectively kill this project. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's very serious.
So Felix, if you want to put your suggestion in the form of a motion, we will get in touch with Lemoyne following this meeting. Find out how quickly they can turn around a comparative report to a 20-year versus a 15-year.
But what that's gonna necessitate, Lisa, even if we have the report, well, special meeting is one thing, which we all understand. But the second thing is, we could not approve a resolution for the pilot without the appropriate process, and we have to go through.
so as quickly as Camoin can put together the report, if they can put it together very quickly, then you could have a special meeting, you could decide the next steps. And assuming that we had sufficient time to hold a public hearing, in theory, don't get ahead of what I'm saying, please.
Yeah.
Possibly we could have the public hearing done for our February board meeting.
Can I ask one other question?
I can't promise that though.
No, but I would just like to ask another question. Is it possible, if you were following Felix's motion for having the second study done, in that same motion, could language be placed in the motion that would say something to the effect, if there was evidence to support a 20-year and the board was inclined to then act accordingly, could there be saying any language that would say that they would be willing to move forward with inducing and move forward with scheduling a public hearing, so that for the benefit of the financial partners, they could look at it and say there's a possibility to proceed and go forward and complete an expeditious timeframe in language
That's what I'm
something.
saying.
I can
That's-
schedule a public hearing as soon as we're ready. I'm authorized to schedule the public hearing. That's not gonna buy us anything. The issue is that the board needs to see the report.
I understand.
If they've got the information and they've got it in their computer, seems to me you go from 15 to 20 and you come up with a set of numbers. But I'm not the consultant.
Well, not only you come up with a set of numbers, you come up with a context in which those numbers make some sense to the project and to the village and to the community. I think it's more than just looking at chart A and chart B. It's okay, what's the effect of chart A versus chart B? That's what I'd like to have some analysis of, not just numbers.
From the owner's perspective.
Well, from both Camoins' perspective and the owner's perspective. That, it's their money, I'm not arguing the point, but we need to see, okay, what do the numbers mean? If there's two charts, to some
And
degree.
to that end, it's gonna be incumbent upon the applicant to work with Camoin to respond to any questions that they may have regarding the difference between a 15 and a 20-year inducement. So this report shouldn't just be one-sided. It should have some comments or input from the applicant to respond to whatever Camoin's questions may be.
So Felix, just so you know, Camoin has already provided, the applicant, and the applicant has given it back to Camoin, a very detailed, very lengthy spreadsheet of information. So Camoin has the information that they need to, review everything.
Well, that's great, because that'll save a lot of time. And if there's anything that has developed new since that report was gone in, it would be incumbent upon the applicant to get that information to Camoin.
And if there's anything further that's being requested, which I'm not aware of at this point, I'd be happy to work with Camoin, Ms. Mulligan, Ms. Office, our client, to get you whatever is needed.
Did I hear you correctly, or maybe I misheard, but I just want to make sure that there is a memorandum which outlines from the UTEP perspective why this project meets the criteria, or
Yes,
exceeds the criteria, for lack of a better term,
it's
to be able to go into a 20-year aspect of that?
no, our UTEP doesn't allow for, that is just, our UTEP right now, it says that our standard is a 7 to 10 year
Right,
pilot. But if you hit any of these other possible criteria,
Right.
which they
Right.
do, then you're eligible for 13 to 15 years.
Correct, and we hit them all and
Okay.
exceeded them, but in addition, what we provided was an economic analysis, which I gave in for Camoin to review if they were inclined and wanted to get to the 20-year period. And that has been here since November.
okay,
And that was part of our request after I came before you on November, I think it was 16th, and we discussed it the last time. So and this is where I apologize to
That's okay.
Mr. Gross, I misunderstood. I thought it was under consideration at present as two
all the
alternatives.
board members have this?
I don't know.
No,
if Ms.
no, I haven't shared it yet. We usually share it, when
Okay,
everything's finalized with the full packet and the, for the public
I
hearing.
think it would be helpful when that is done, that this be shared with the board at that time.
The feasibility
It's the
study.
grow amount.
To grow
It's the
America.
economic
Cause
feasibility.
I'd like to read it, but I don't want to read it if nobody else has read it.
Well, I
In
can
that
share,
context.
I mean, the
We can share
feasibility
it now.
study,
That's why I asked the question.
but now typically I share the feasibility study. I was also provided a pilot study, which we didn't, I'm not saying miscommunication. I'm not going down that path.
Correct.
That was provided to us that we don't usually, we didn't request, we don't usually get from applicants. That one I haven't shared, and I probably wouldn't share because it's not something that we ask for, need.
I get it.
require.
I get it.
So I can send that feasibility study out this afternoon.
I think that would be, as I said, I don't wanna read it or have it if nobody else has it. I think it would
No,
be
you-
helpful
everyone's
if
gonna have
everybody else had it
Yeah,
to look at, cause that will help answer some of the other questions that have been raised, so.
So there are two studies that we provided, and it's the feasibility study that you have there,
Right.
and then there's also the economic analysis.
Well, the economic analysis will go to Camoin. I will leave that with them.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll
That's
get a
the-
report on that.
That's the
from
two
guy.
that I'm referring to.
No, I get it.
We provided both
Okay,
for direction and input. However, Ms. Mulligan was gonna share it.
I get it.
And it was discussed with Howard and with Annette, and and maybe I was misinformed. I thought both were being reviewed by Camoin.
Okay.
One more question for the applicant, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Will this project go forward on a 15-year inducement?
The only way it'll go forward on a 15-year inducement is two ways. One, the pilot could not kick in until completion of construction. Which would be 24 months after groundbreaking. And we would have to have 100% abatement during that time in order to make it economically
We
feasible.
usually do that
We do
anyway.
that, we do
Yeah,
that.
we've done that.
Yeah.
So effectively, it would be like a 17.
Land only when they're on. Mitch, land
I'm
only,
sorry?
ordinary land only during that period.
Land over.
Yeah,
Yeah, right,
Land
right,
only, yeah.
land only, right.
We have the issue of demolition, but that I assume we can overcome.
Right, land only, right, I get that.
We just
So,
look at
so
the
for the first,
investment on
for the first 2 years, assuming groundbreaking in the spring of
Say
2005.
April of 2025.
Right.
We're scheduled.
So
for.
therefore, the first 2 years would be at the current land only rate,
Yeah.
which we've done in the past. And then right, we've done that in the past. And then the pilot itself would kick in at whatever percentage it's gonna be in year 3.
Well, we would have to be land only for the entire 15 years in order to.
Well,
Did you hear that?
Yeah, but that's the point that he was trying to make earlier on in this
so
discussion.
there would be no, well, I don't think we've ever done, have we ever done that?
My recollection is that this project is being built in 2 phases, so why wouldn't you treat the 2 phases separately? So land only on the first phase until it's CO'd or completed, and let it kick in for that. And then on the second phase, do land only from inception until it's completed, we're estimated, because we use estimated dates, and
Right.
then have it kick in.
But what they're saying, Howard, is they want land only for 15 years.
Is that what they're saying?
Yes.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Oh, then I misunderstood that.
I know.
I'm not aware of any instance where we've ever done that for a
No,
project
because
like that.
normally,
We will not get a positive.
For an industrial building, we do it for 10 years.
at
On new
land cost
construction.
only.
Yeah.
Okay. Because at some point, it's gotta get the full taxation. The only question is when and what's the spread between the last year on the pilot and the full taxation, assuming for the moment, picking up numbers, the tax on the property at full valuation is $1 million, picking a number. Then what you're saying is that on the 15th year, it will be 10,000, and on the 16th year, it will be 1 million. That's what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted
And-
to make sure I understood that.
I'd like to just make one point to that point is that we did a pretty in-depth, tax study with all the comps. And then, we worked with with tax assessor's office for both the town and the village.
Right.
And the number that we got was roughly $9,400, per unit at, that is stabilized taxes. And we back into that from there.
Right.
That is, the next highest number in the market is $6,500. So we are the highest by almost double taxed project in the market.
And why would that be? Or why would they tell you that in that, what purpose is that in that context?
Based off the tax assessor's report, which was given to us. So the number that you're talking about here is in.
That makes no sense.
What I'm having trouble with is how do you go from 15-year, I don't want to prolong the discussion, but
Right.
how do you go from a 15-year land only to a 20-year pilot that works? Something's.
But the ramp up in the difference in the additional 5 years in the end, it's all the schedule is what's important.
So what you're saying then is the last 5 years, I assume, the 16th year you'd pay 20%, the 17th year you'd pay 40%, 80% up. Is that the intent here? 20, 40, 60, 80, 100?
From year 13 on, it's a straight line ramp up to year 20.
So is it land only for the
So
first?
it's land only for the first 12,
Well, there's a 2.5%
Yeah, of course.
escalator, during
the land only.
yes.
Right, I get it.
And the first 3 years
It's zero, right,
is zero.
right, I get it. I get it.
And that was the information that we were able to put together, but it may not have advanced to this point.
Okay. Got it.
Or we need a motion to go.
We're going back to Felix's motion?
thought
Yeah,
To, Felix, you want to put that in form of motion? And we'll look
Yeah, I
at the
kind of got lost in all of the conversation. I think the original intent that I put forward was that based upon how do you pronounce their name?
You got it.
You got it, you got it.
Own, they were not, they recommended to us to stay at a 15-year mortgage, 15-year inducement. But based upon the applicant's presentation, that it may not be able to go forward at 15 years, that he's seeking for 20. I would recommend that we go back, have the applicant provide whatever additional information they have to Camoin, and then have Camoin give us a final report on a 15-year inducement and a 20-year inducement with the input coming from the applicant.
Do we want them to also compare against the pilot that they are requesting?
Sure, that would make sense too.
Three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yep, yep. Why not?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any additional discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving forward.
Get you guys going.
Okay.
So they get paid.
Thank you. So
Okay.
I just have one question. So.
Only
if-
one?
Yes, if this winds up giving you what you're in need of, then there is the possibility of having a special meeting and
Mrs. Mullin, yeah, Lisa,
That's up to the,
that's up to,
Let's see what the timing says. There's no point in having a special meeting if it doesn't buy us anything as far as being able to have the public hearing before the next board meeting.
I
If it
understand.
does, we'll go from there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Mr. Russo.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
thank you.
And by the way, Happy New Year.
Happy-
Happy New Year.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, I'm going to take things, back.
Thanks, Howard.
I'm gonna go back into, I'm gonna go back a little bit. I think the next.
Excuse
item
me for
on-
interrupting.
Go ahead, Felix.
In about 20 minutes, I'm going to need to exit this meeting. I have to bring my wife to a doctor's appointment. So if there's anything that needs, the board's vote before then, I would ask that we take that out of sequence.
I think we're good because, even if Marty and Felix leave, we still have 4 board members.
Okay,
And
okay.
I don't think that there's anything all that, anything all that exciting. So I will, pretend to be
We are paid by the hour we're here, so.
Big bucks there, Mitch, there we go.
Isn't there something about double time beyond?
Holiday pay.
All right, let's go.
Okay, the next item on the
I gotta
agenda
catch a train.
is
Fast
MDF
track.
Building Ventures. I'll call fast. This is to remind everybody, a project. We have 2 facilities. One is in the Shirley Industrial Park. I'm sorry, the original is on Dorn Boulevard. One that's, just now completed, darn close, if not, is in the Shirley Industrial Park. They updated their rental amounts between the 2 companies, there's 3 companies, but in the sublease agreement, I'm sorry, in their lease, they adjusted the rent amounts. In our, agreements, it says you can't modify them without our consent. So they're requesting the agency consent. They're literally changing the amount that they rent. They are related entities. They're changing the amount that they, are gonna pay
Each other.
So they're requesting the agency's consent on this. In addition to that, I'm also asking if you will consider giving me the authority to consent to changes like this. If it's something that's not material, if it's something that's significant, I will certainly bring it to your attention, but
Absolutely.
I feel a little bit like this is in some of our agreements to prevent them from I don't know, deciding to store gunpowder in their facility, something that you guys would want to be aware of, that we would want to make sure that we were alerted to. But it catches things like this that are not really that material. So,
Absolutely.
okay, so I think we need,
So moved.
Second.
both pieces.
Or I should say,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Ron Cub Phase 2A, this is another example. I have the authority to, when sales tax has expired, I have the authority to extend their sales tax. I can also increase the sales tax dollar amount. I hardly ever do it because we usually have enough time, and I feel like it's something that should come to you. In this case, on, I think, December 30th, they said, hey, any chance? So we did it. The documents are still being processed, but they requested an extension to 6/30 of 2025 for Ron Cub Phase 2A. But what I'm asking right now is for you to ratify that the extension of the sales tax time.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And again, we have the time, I'm gonna bring it to you, but I didn't have time. The next item is the housing study. In our governance meeting, we discussed working with Camoin to do the study. The one thing I just want to point out is when we last discussed this, you guys authorized, I think, up to $10,000. I could be off at that number. Camoin's proposal says 24,000. So if you want to move with Camoin, I need you to increase the amount that you approved.
So move. Second.
Let me just make sure it was 24. Yeah, it was 24. So do you want to do not to
You
exceed?
wanna do not to?
Not to exceed 25.
Okay.
They may need to buy more postage stamps.
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Quick reminder, board assessments, harassment training, fiduciary responsibility forms, as we will be sending out harassment information, so that's just a reminder. LIBDC, we were supposed to be hosting our dinner in April, but there's been a little bit of a mix-up with when Islip can host their dinner, so they asked if we would consider February. I've been in touch with Congressman Lalota's office to try and have him come in and speak. Originally, I've been speaking to him about April. I reached out yesterday about February. I haven't heard back from them yet, but it might, I don't know if that's gonna be realistic or not. So I think I'm gonna need you guys to, well, it's $5,000 for the sponsorship, whether we do it in
Whether,
February.
right, and from that perspective, the date is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right.
So
We're gonna do it, and a conversation we had was that having Congressman Lalota and maybe Congressman Garbarino there to talk about the tax policies that may be coming in 25 would be very interesting to not only to everybody, all of our businesses. So I think we should just give Lisa authority to set it up whenever they can do it.
And I've
Doesn't matter to us when the date is.
and the motion to approve
For
the.
the $5,000.
That I will not do.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
someone else.
You do
I
that.
am happy to do that. Amend the motion.
And I will
to
second.
approve
All
5,000.
those in favor?
I
Thank
will
you.
Aye.
recuse myself from that vote.
Mhm.
Okay, and I will keep you updated as the
Yep.
date comes together. The next one is the LIBDC membership. So normally, you guys have given me permission to approve these. I'm bringing this one forward for two reasons. One, there's potentially a change in the dollar amount for the LIBDC membership. And also now I'm on the executive committee, so it felt inappropriate not to bring it to your attention. So, right now it looks like it's gonna go from $700 to $950. And, so,
I'll move it.
second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
okay.
I will recuse myself from that
All right.
vote.
Okay. Legislative updates, I went over this in the governance committee, but we're gonna update our application. I'm doing them a
On
little
the
bit.
childcare.
Mhm.
On
Yeah,
on
childcare, and
childcare.
we're gonna wait and see what,
Potentially, probably, you
Right.
also
Also-
with the other changes.
yeah,
Right, because you're saying childcare
Right.
There's lots of
Yeah.
nuances
It
to
is,
childcare.
it is a specific requirement that one of the criteria to be considered under the UTAP is whether a project will provide on-site childcare. The governor signed this change into law, but the governor's memo describes that basically there was an agreement reached with the legislature.
To amend the bill.
That this
Which is-
will.
Right, they do
some
that all
further
the time.
amendments, so it doesn't make sense to amend the UTAP.
Right.
Until all of those changes can be added, and you have other UTAP changes coming, so maybe we can accomplish it, but at the same time to honor what is now signed into law, a change can be added quickly to your application.
Okay,
Officially on the record, I just want to say that this agency will comply with whatever changes
Yeah.
Eventually come down the pike. We're just waiting for a little bit
Yeah.
more direction. Other than that, we're going to update our application with some other stuff too, because it's always good to
Lisa,
keep it fresh.
Lisa, I just have a
Yeah.
quick question, just for my own edification. When we say that we're going to add to our application form the proviso of daycare, does that mean that there has to be space provided for daycare by the business, or the business has to provide and pay for daycare for their employees?
So that's exactly the issue. Right now, the language in the law says that we have to consider whether the applicant is going to have on-site daycare. And I think as they went through this, they realized, well, what if it wasn't on-site? What if it was next door? Or what if there was a bus that was going to take people? So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. So right now it's on-site daycare, but that's part of what Andrew alluded to is being sort of thought through a little further. We're going to ask a question. I think we're going to ask a very broad question in our application right now. Please explain, if you will be providing any childcare services to your employees,
Right.
something like that. As the law gets cleaned up and the language is defined a little bit better, we might have to adjust the question on our application, but that's kind of the concept. They want us to look and see, just like we have a question now that says, what green energy systems are you putting into your project? It doesn't mean that if you don't put any green energy, we don't accept your application. It's just one more thing that they want us to think about as we look at projects. It gives us a little bit more of a clearer picture of the project.
Yeah, I follow that thinking, but what I was trying to get at is, how do they want us to think about it? Think about it in terms of the employer providing space, trained
Yeah.
people, toys, cots, cribs. What is the extent of providing the daycare? How do they want us to think about it?
We don't know yet. The law was very broad. They're gonna work on it, give us a little bit more direction.
Okay, understood.
I would assume, I think Andrew would agree, that they're gonna make it as flexible as possible, and that most companies, given a choice, is not gonna wanna have it on site.
Insurance.
You have to be insurance, you have to be licensed, you have to have licensed staff.
And also it is irrelevant for all
Right.
the projects, but I think at this point, some, question that these.
Right, absolutely. Right, I think in the end, it will, most companies, given a choice, will pay a stipend to their employee
Right.
for
To find it, yeah.
whatever number it is for childcare, and that will be how it will be done, but
The IDA Act has a litany of these considerations that are part of your UTAP.
Right.
That are to be considered, and this has been added.
Right.
To those considerations.
Right.
So
Okay.
ultimately, it will be presumably amendment of your
Right.
UTAP, but just to comply quickly at least,
Okay.
a question on the application.
Okay.
It's probably prudent.
fine.
And that leaves our organizational resolutions.
There are only 46 minus 2, so I'll see how quickly I get through this.
Come on, Fred, you're good with that.
And we'll do the same thing we did earlier.
Let's hit it.
Numbers 1 through 5, appointment of CEO and executive director, appointment of chief financial officer, appointment of executive assistant. Number 4 is blank, we eliminated something a while back. Number 5 is appointment of director of marketing and project development. Motion,
So
So
moved.
moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving forward, appointment of legal counsel, appointment of the insurance broker of record, the slate of IDA board officers. Now, I went through this quickly with the LDC. We didn't talk about the officers. Anybody want to change the slate of officers that currently exist?
Happy with your positions?
Well, we should keep the compensation going. We'll do that.
Somebody said that.
We're not asking for a raise till next year.
Yeah, we'll get to next year.
Moving forward, adoption of the committee charters and establishment appointing of governance, finance and audit committee. And number 10 is the adoption of fee schedule. Stop there.
The only change, and I mentioned this in the LDC, is that there's no treasurer or assistant treasurer on the audit committee. We changed that last year, like midway.
Yeah,
through
we
the
did that.
year. I don't know, but
Okay,
it's
So
not supposed
moved.
to be like that, so we're gonna clean that up.
Once, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have a second?
We didn't
We didn't have a second.
I'll second it. Go ahead.
Moving forward, number 11 again is blank. Number 12 is the hourly requirement. 13 is the 2025 meeting schedule. Number 14 is the appointment of the website design and maintenance. Number 15 is banking and
The
investment.
only I was gonna ask is, while I have the dates, we do not have the times for those dates. So my question is, do we have any idea what the times are gonna be on those dates? We had obviously made a decision in the past to go back mainly to morning meetings, which I always found very helpful, but I don't wanna talk for any of the other board members.
The only thing, I'll speak up for the staff who asked me to speak up.
Oh, you can talk about swimming too.
Yeah, well, swimming, but, they like to sometimes have the hearings before the board meetings, so then you can have the resolution after. So having too early a morning
We
meeting,
can't have the public hearing before, and it does come in handy, not always, but sometimes we have found ourselves in situations. I will tell you also, with that school next door, when we have early meetings, you
I
guys,
can't get in
we
here.
can't get in. So it's, I
So
mean,
define early, like 8 o'clock you're talking?
well, if we have a 9 o'clock meeting.
They can't have a public hearing.
Can you make
we
it
can't have a public
9:30?
Hearing before it,
Can you make it 9:30?
Or
have one at 9:30.
the
Board
meeting,
meeting?
well, hearing or not?
I mean,
You could do whatever you want,
Yeah.
but if they could have a little time to have public hearings before, it
Yeah.
helps, which might be more than 9:30.
Yeah, I would say that we're going to.
You need at least an hour.
I would
Yeah.
suggest we leave them at noon like we have it currently. That would be-
Yeah,
And
Phil, it's like,
and also we move them to noon in the winter time so that if there were, we haven't had snow in
but-
forever, but
3 years ago we did, that's why we moved them.
yeah, so that
We
if there's a
couldn't get here, we
snowstorm,
canceled the meeting once.
yeah, we have time for everybody, for people to dig out a little bit and get in. And we could flip flop
Okay.
winter and summer like
That's
we
fine.
have been doing, or we could do all, or you guys,
I'd come in at 7 o'clock, but no.
Doesn't matter to me.
I'd be here. I'd be here.
I vote for noon time.
It's much easier for a morning meeting.
We usually do 7:45.
That's right.
About
We used to
later in
do
the
it.
day.
That was in the old days.
No, later in
But a
days.
certain person never showed up on time.
I vote for noon time.
I hear Felix said
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
I vote for noon time.
You gotta leave,
I don't wanna-
we're gonna shoot for 10 o'clock.
I would prefer 10 o'clock.
Then,
How's 10, Felix?
10 is fine.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay, so
compromise.
That's what you call negotiating.
We can ask.
Well, the next two you already, didn't you average? Did you?
no, we have
No, you
advertised
haven't? Okay,
for
good.
All right, so we can do
February,
10 o'clock on,
yeah.
February 5th.
February 5th.
okay.
The only other thing I want to bring to your attention is that we moved the March meeting to March 26th. Which gives us, because Paris isn't due until the end of March, that gives our auditors as much time as possible, that gives us as much time as possible. And if we end up with a huge agenda, we might ask you to do a meeting sometime in between February 5th and March 26th, because that's a big gap.
Yeah.
So,
Anybody,
Yeah,
will
February.
add that.
yeah, we'll add it later. I just want to bring it to you.
and anyone that got an email from me
Hopefully we
yesterday
get
talking about the March 23rd,
Oh.
I hit the wrong button.
Yeah, okay, I saw
I'm a
that.
guilty
Yeah,
party.
Something.
Well, I
had to
did,
call up
listen,
Josh
I
and
saw
say,
the
"Hey, Josh,
dates and I
what's
saw,
going
one of them is on my wedding anniversary. Likelihood of that being here is, slim.
You know, this is a public meeting. You can join us. All right, there's a resolution on the table for
11.
11 through 15.
So
All in
moved.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I need a
Thank
second.
you.
All right.
Second.
Going to the next 5, adoption of a mission statement and measurement report. Adopting an ethics policy, procurement policy, and property and acquisition disposal policy, excuse me. Number 18, adopting uniform tax exemption policy. Number 19, adopting compensation policy. Number 20, adopting a policy concerning board member and employee loans, and I repeat, there are none. And there will never be any. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second
So
question.
the only change is the mission statement and measurement report. I'm just gonna read the mission statement. The mission of the Town of Brookhaven Industrial Development Agency is to improve the quality of life for Brookhaven town residents by promoting and assisting the growth of businesses that will increase employment opportunities, increase the commercial tax base, and are sensitive to the quality of the environment, including, but not limited to, commercial industrial projects, housing projects, and energy projects. To accomplish our mission, we will aggressively market to companies currently located within the town, as well as those organizations external to the town, utilizing the various incentives available to the IDA, specifically sales tax and mortgage reporting tax exemptions, real estate tax abatements, and the ability to issue lower cost tax exempt and taxable bonds. The only other item in here is we have to update a sentence that says how many active projects we have, how many full-time jobs were reported as of December 31st, 2024. We don't have that until we're done with Paris, so we will fill in those blanks as soon as we do.
Motion on the floor, it's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on, number 21, adopting prevailing wage policy. Adopting an adaptive reuse policy. Number 23, delegating and authorizing execution of IDA documents. Number 24, adopting incentive compensation
We're
policy.
gonna hold that one until February.
Yeah, the policy exists, but we'll come back, Lisa and I will work on the goals for 2025 and bring it back in February.
Okay,
Okay.
Number 25 is longevity. Motion for those, please.
so move.
Second,
Second.
questions? We have nothing to those.
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Are we adopting 24? It's not updated.
Well, then make the motion
Yeah.
other than number
Excluding
24.
24.
Yeah.
Excluding number
Fill
24.
in the blank.
Okay, excluding number 24.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on, number 26,
Did you
adoption,
get motion is, okay, thanks.
Yep.
adoption of deferred compensation program policy. Holiday schedule, number 28, adopting a travel and discretionary funds policy. Number 29, adopting accrual policy for management employees. Number 30, adopting accrual policy for full-time non-management employees. Motion for those, please.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You. Number 31, audit and accounting services. Number 32, adopting a bereavement policy. Number 33, conflict of interest policy. Number 34, appointment of insurance risk manager. Number 35, approval of unlawful harassment and unlawful sexual harassment prohibition policy. Motion for those.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
So the only changes are for the audit, for PKF, it's not to exceed 25,000, and for our accounting services, Jones Little, not to exceed $2,000. And, our insurance risk manager, right now, the contract says that, she's gonna review projects and she's capped at the number of hours. But she can come to me if it's gonna go over, because sometimes the projects, the attorneys will tell you, sometimes the insurance gets a little bit, involved. Right now, it's capped at, I think 3 hours per project, and the reality is she ends up doing these reviews for the project and also then for the GC. And so I'm almost every one, I'm saying, nope, that's okay, we can go over, nope. So I'm gonna change the agreement with her so that it's 6 hours, yeah. Which gives a little more flexibility.
It's for this year.
That's the way the law is written. I don't know. Is there lawful sexual harassment and unlawful
I
harassment?
did wonder about that.
Well, do you really want me to get into that?
No.
If everybody.
Today's day and age, you know, right? You don't want to open that door with me, do you?
I don't think.
No.
No.
The motion on the floor is
We
second
respect your knowledge in it.
for resolutions 31 to 35. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to number 36, approval of 2024 and some set of compensation. Those were discussed in the executive session. I would entertain a motion to approve what was.
Why don't we do that?
We'll do them live, just to be specific about that.
Mhm.
No? Okay. Number 37 is jury duty. Number 38, employment health insurance. Number 39 is cancer screening. Number 40 is appointment of public relations for motion.
So move.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. For 41, supplemental benefits insurance. 42, shared services agreement. With 43, newspaper of record. With 44, acquisition of real property. 45 is left blank, and number 46 is separation payout. Motion for those.
So, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are done with the resolutions.
I think that's everything. And that means that we will see everyone February 9th.
Wait, there's not
At
gonna
10
get a
a.m.
lot.
Right, February, no, I'm sorry, February 5th.
February
Sorry.
Wow.
February 5th at 10 a.m.
Thank you, and have a happy new year, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else that anyone wants to bring up?
Oh, did we block it up? Did we?
Where you have to. You need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
To adjourn the meeting.
Yeah. No, yes, if they wanted to discuss something further.
Oh, sorry.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'm putting it right.
Felix already left.
Thank you for your patience. It's a long meeting.